Chapter 4. Transcendence. It's okay, little man, Daddy's here. When Naruto woke up warm and safe the second morning, he was confused. He kept expecting to wake up at that bad place with all the mean ladies, and the older kids that were mean to him too. The man lying next to him had his arm around him. It felt nice, but sometimes people were nice to him to get him to come near them, then they would hurt him. They always hurt him. Sometimes they made him sleep outside. But still, he felt so warm and comfortable. Would that man hurt him? He got out of the bed and stood in the corner so he could watch him. He was hungry. He got cold, standing there alone. He tugged at his wet diaper, the urine irritated his rash and it hurt. He wanted it off, but his footed pajamas wouldn't come off. He pulled at the clothing until he was able to yank an arm out then the other. He tried to push it down, but it was stuck. He gave a whine of frustration. Kakashi heard the noise and awoke. Naruto was not in the bed with him. He looked around the room and spotted him in the corner watching him. He had that look of distrust in his eyes and his pajamas were half off. "What's the matter, pup? Are you okay?" he asked. "You don't have to be afraid of me. I will never hurt you." He wasn't really expecting the boy to answer him, but he had hoped for some sort of acknowledgement. Sighing in helplessness and frustration, he got out of bed, crouched in front of the boy, and said gently, "Do you need a little help?" Naruto looked up at him and nodded shyly. "Off, wet," he said in a timid and hopeful way. Kakashi smiled at him and pulled the zipper down. He took off his clothes and the diaper, much to the boy's relief. He frowned when he saw how red and blistered Naruto still was. "I think we should stop by the hospital today, because this looks real bad." He slathered it with cream and was about to put another diaper when he remembered what he had decided to do last night. He picked up the boy, set him on his feet, then led him to the bathroom. "Daddy's going to show you how to do something that's really cool, and then we will eat. You're hungry, right, son?" His little face lit up. Yup. Kakashi was supposed to meet with the Hokage at 11 that morning, but after eating breakfast and dealing with the chibi, he found himself looking at the clock, which read 9:30. Someone knocked at the door. It was Naruto's new bed. He kept saying, "F-O me? F-O me?" It was the first time he had his own bed. It was very small, so Kakashi was able to set it up in his room. As he looked at the now much smaller space in his room, he thought that maybe they should get a bigger place. There was his family home, but he just wasn't ready to face that yet. He looked over at his new pup, running his small hands reverently over the ninja on his blanket, and smiled. "What an awesome little man," he thought. "At 11, he's officially all mine." He looked at the clock again, 10:15 now. He still had to take Naruto to see a medic. "Oh well, can't be helped now," he said as he shrugged and began the long ordeal of getting the chibi to leave the house. He could not wait for the day when Naruto was not so afraid to leave the house. He did not want to force the kid, but he also knew it was unhealthy for him to stay indoors so much. 30 minutes later, Kakashi walked out of his apartment sucking his bleeding hand and holding on to his son with the other. The little chibi's eyes were red-rimmed from crying, but he was happy now. He was going to get to fly with the man and get a new toy. As Kakashi neared the large 3-storied hospital, he began to sweat profusely. He really hated this place. He would much rather do his healing in the safety and comfort of his own home, but there was no help for it. Naruto came first. The poor little guy was in pain every time he wet himself. He also wanted to have a doctor give him a full exam. The boy had been starved, beaten, and who knows what else. He wanted to make sure he was doing the right things in regards to Naruto. As soon as he entered, he took the chibi off his shoulders and set him down next to him. Naruto grasped his pant leg and followed him to the reception counter. An older woman was operating the station. "Can I help you?" she asked. "I need a medic to see my son. He has a severe rash." A cute nurse led him to a small examination room, and told him to put the boy on the table. When Kakashi took off Naruto's hooded jacket, she noticed the whisker marks. Her flirty manner stopped immediately as she rushed from the room. They waited for an hour before Kakashi got angry. He told the boy to wait 1 second and stormed out of the room. Spotting a doctor, he seized the man and hissed, "This is a bunch of crap. You're a doctor and I demand you look at my son, right now." The doctor knew who was in that room. Everyone did. He stammered, "Now see here, you cannot force me to look at that little demon." "Are you so sure? You do know who I am, right?" he said coolly. "You have to ask yourself, who are you more afraid of, a small 3-year-old or me?" "Well?" The doctor gulped nervously, nodded to the famous copy, and followed him to the exam room. The little boy was hiding under the table, hugging his knees and crying. He thought the man left him here in this strange place. When he opened his eyes at the squeak of the door, his heart leapt in shock. He was back. He scrambled out from under the table and threw himself into the man's arms, sobbing in relief. "Dada, air." Kakashi's heart soared when the boy said Dada. He caressed his head, wiped the tears from his cheek and said with a hitch, "I promised you that I would never leave you, pup. I'm your daddy." He put Naruto on the table and took off his clothes so the physician could look at him. He held the boy the entire time, watching the doctor with a dangerous look in his eye, daring him to do or say something stupid. The doctor gave him a written list of his findings. Reading through it, Kakashi wished he could have been surprised. Instead, he felt numb with melancholy. The kid has really suffered a lot in his short life. He crumpled the paper in his hand and threw it away. He never wanted to read a list like that again. Ibiki was probably the only person he knew that had been through worse treatment. After getting a shot for the infection and some strong cream, they were able to leave, but not before Kakashi swiped a lollipop from the nurse to give to the boy. Sticking it in his mouth, he put him on his shoulders and headed toward the Hokage Tower. This was the latest he would ever be. "We will get your toy when I am finished with the paperwork, pup." They arrived at the tower nearly 3 hours late. The Nin took the boy down from his shoulders and grabbed his sticky little hand. He touched his silver hair, discovering remnants of the lollipop in it, and gave a grimace. Looking down at the chibi, he had to smile for there was green dribbling down both corners of his mouth. The boy pulled the sucker out with a pop and held it towards Kakashi. "EW1 Dada?" No thanks, pup. Daddy will pass for now." He gave a chuckle and led the boy to the door. Everyone kept trying to stop Kakashi when they saw him with the adorable chibi. Too many of the adoring looks tuned into distrust when they discovered the boy's identity. The copy Nin was leaking small amounts of killing intent by the time they finished walking through the building and reached the Hokage's office. He had to stop and breathe deep several times to gain control of himself. He was scaring the poor kid. He just wanted to get adoption papers and get the hell out of there. He got a sudden horrible sinking feeling when he walked into the office with the boy in his arms. The matron from the orphanage and several counselor members were standing around, clearly waiting for them. "Ma, sorry we are late. I had to take Naruto to the hospital. He had a terrible rash, which was clearly caused by neglect," he said, giving the woman a dirty look beneath his mask. "Don't you dare blame me, all children get rashes from time to time," she huffed in an affronted voice. "A rash so bad it got infected? I do not think so. He should be able to use the toilet by now." Instead, he was wearing a diaper that was obviously dirty for a long time. That is called neglect, and he has done nothing to deserve such abominable and repulsive treatment. Kakashi was yelling by the time he finished saying what was on his mind. "Well," she sniffed haughtily, "I'll look into it when I take the boy back with me." Kakashi's face turned white. He turned to the Hokage and stared at him in disbelief. "What is she talking about?" he asked in a deadly whisper, hardly daring to believe what he just heard. Kakashi saw the deep sadness reflected in his eyes before Sarutobi lowered his head, his hat shielding his eyes. He folded his hands in front of him and said regretfully, "The council has rejected your adoption application." They feel that you are too young to have such a huge responsibility set on your shoulders. The copy nin hugged the boy in his arms close to himself. Naruto, ever sensitive to the emotions of people around him, threw his arms around Kakashi's neck and buried his head in his shoulder. He knew something bad was happening. He quivered uncontrollably and gave a soft whine. The sound angered him. How dare they scare my son like this? How dare they even presume to take my son away from me? There is no way fate could be that cruel. You cannot be serious. You cannot take him away from me. I can take care of him. I am not too young for this. I have been killing for this village since the age of 7. Was I too young for that responsibility? He was too stunned to move. It felt like the worst nightmare he had ever experienced. He had only spent 2 days with the boy, but he had bonded with him. He thought, why can't they see the anguish this will cause both of us? I can't let him go back to that hellish place. He can't take much more. Koharu harshly reprimanded him. It has nothing to do with your duty as a shinobi. You are a trained killer, not a father. Sarutobi looked sharply at the council member. All of us in this room are trained killers, and some of our parents too. I believe Hitaki is good for the boy. Danzo stepped forward and said mildly, you have always been too soft, Hiruzen. I think I should take the boy. I am capable of protecting him, and the demon inside of him. He gazed at Kakashi then and said snidely, it doesn't matter that you feel that your actions were justified, you attacked an unarmed civilian. You know the shinobi laws, Hitaki. Kakashi bristled, there was something off with this man. That is the real reason why you are denying me, isn't it? He did not like Danzo at all and thought that Naruto would be in even greater danger if he went to him. You're not even a member of the council. Why are you here? He snapped. Watch your tongue. That is none of your business, kid. Kakashi was about to retort, but the Hokage interjected, this is getting us nowhere. We need some time to review all the information and discuss what must be done. You cannot allow Naruto to back to that place, it would be heartless. You know he won't be safe there. He stared at the matron as he said that. She glared at him. Let him stay with me, please, Lord Hokage. The other elder, Hamura, moved in front of the nin and said, no, not until we have finished our investigation. He will stay at the orphanage until we make a decision. You are absolutely forbidden from entering the premises. You have already attacked that poor woman once. Need I remind you that she is a civilian? Shinobi in this village are to protect our people, not assault them. The Hokage slowly stood up, walked around his desk, and put his hand on Kakashi's arm. Gravely he said, there is nothing you can do about this now, you must let them take him. I swear to you that I will do what I can. But who will protect him? Who will care for him? He asked almost to himself. He then shook off the Hokage's arm and strode over to the desk. Setting Naruto on it, he unbuttoned his overalls and took off his shirt. He said not a word to anyone as they watched him in bafflement. Finished, he turned around and pointed to the naked boy. Look at him, every one of you, he demanded. There are no bruises, no cuts, nothing except this rash. Now look right here, he said pointing to the boy's back, see that scar, and this one, then he lifted Naruto's arm, this one too. He has 5 broken bones already at 3 years old. Those were no accidents. In 1 week's time, whether I get him back or not, I will be inspecting him. If I find so much as a scratch on him, or that his rash has not been taken care of, I will show you all why I am listed in nearly every hidden village's bingo book. Danzo became indignant instantly and stepped forward. Is that a threat, Hitaki? He responded harshly, no, that's a promise. Kakashi redressed the boy, brushed his wispy hair off his forehead, kissed him and picked him up. Then he fixated his gaze at the Hokage and pleaded in a near whisper one last time, sir, please reconsider. Don't do this to us. The Hokage just turned away, defeated and miserable, and nodded to the civilian woman. The matron of the orphanage grabbed Naruto from Kakashi and tried to take him out of the room. He reached out and grabbed the Jonin's vest in a death grip, then gave out a terrified high-pitched scream. He arched his back away from the woman and tried to get back into Kakashi's arms. "Dada, no, one dada," he cried. Kakashi clenched his fists, feeling so helpless and angry. The woman pulled his fingers from the vest and stepped back from the copy nin. Naruto held his arms out and begged for Kakashi. He began to thrash when she walked away with him towards the door. Panicked, he kicked his legs, screamed, and lashed out. His fingernails dug deep bloody grooves in her cheek, while his teeth caused similar injury to her arm. She dropped him to the floor in surprise and pain. He quickly dashed away from her to Kakashi and seized him tightly. "Dada." Kakashi picked Naruto up and wrapped his arms protectively around him. He rubbed his back gently, then looked at Hiruzen, radiating fury. "You see? This is so wrong. How could you allow them to do this to him?" "I am sorry, Hitaki. You cannot do anything about it for now. You need to let her take him back to the orphanage," said Hiruzen regretfully. He knew it was wrong too, and he vowed to himself to do something about it as quickly as possible, but his hands were tied at this moment. After he was able to calm the boy in his arms down, Sarutobi gathered everyone and left him alone to say his goodbyes. He sat with him in the chair, cradled his small body next to his and cried. Naruto was so scared and helpless. All he had ever wanted to do was protect the boy. He never in his life would have ever imagined he could love something this much. It transcended everything he had ever felt before. The ripping pain in his chest made it difficult to breathe. He had to say something, but didn't want it to be a goodbye. He had to say what was in his heart. He took a deep breath, then found the right words. "I am so sorry, Minato, I failed you again. I couldn't prevent your death, and I couldn't protect your son." Kakashi scrubbed his face in sorrow and tried valiantly to hold back his depression. "I should have known better. I should have known that I am too tainted." He pulled the confused boy close to him, pulled down his mask, and kissed his forehead. "I don't know if it's wrong, but you make me feel hopeful. Hopeful that I can actually have a future. I will find a way for us to be together. I promise. I just want you to know before I leave, I have found a reason to change whom I used to be and start over new. I am starting to see who I was meant to be. That reason is you. You have to go with that lady, son. I will not let you down, I will come for you. I promise you, I will find a way. Don't be afraid, okay, it will not be for long. Don't give up while I work it out." He heard the Hokage returning, so he kissed him one last time and said, "I love you, Naruto." When the door opened, Kakashi was ready. He handed the child to the Hokage without a word and staring, his eye not once wavering. Sarutobi was about to say something, but before he could, Kakashi's body flickered out of the building. Sarutobi held the crying child in his arms with great tenderness. He felt older than he had ever felt before. The weight of the world seemed to settle on his shoulders. He called the matron for the orphanage to come in and warned her, "Take good care of this boy. I do not know what your plan is, but I must inform you, it will not work. The Hitaki boy is the best person to raise this child, and I will do everything in my power to see it happen. Kakashi informed me of the circumstances regarding his attack on you the other day, and now that I have seen the scars I can't help but think he was telling the truth. There are many people who work there. I had nothing to do with it, but I will look into it." "See that you do," he said in disbelief of the woman's words. "I will have 2 Umbu escort you safely back. They will be staying there to protect the boy for a while. I will not allow him to be hurt again on the anniversary of the Kyuubi's attack." After she left, he sat alone in his office for a long time. He pulled out his crystal ball and watched the boy taken safely to the orphanage. The Umbu that carried him did not have an easy time of it, as the boy cried and thrashed the whole way. He fell asleep in exhaustion by the time they arrived. Hiruzen put it away before the child woke up. He did not want to witness the boy's reaction when he realized where he was once again. He felt old and tired at that moment. And yes, if you're wondering, Kakashi's words are from the reason. It's
Sorry, guys. I let it run over a bit there. Um, I didn't mean to do that. I'm sorry. But this is gonna be part 3 of what if Naruto was adopted by Kakashi. As always, still don't own it. Um, which is in the description. And I don't know if like y'all noticed, but I put a link to the fan fiction. Sorry, I blanked for a second there. Um, I leave a link to the fan fiction in the oh my god, description. And fifth, hold on. Let me see how many likes the last video got. Um, and based off of that, that's how many likes we need to get next time. So the goal was 35 and y'all hit it exactly. So let's go 40 for the next part. Thank you guys so much for 830 subscribers. I hit 800 subscribers like only a few days ago. I hit 800 subscribers 8 days ago and we're already at 830. Um, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you in the next part. Bye.